It's maybe my favorite short story of all time, and was a most frightening introduction to vampires as a child. I had just gotten to the part where the two old men see their first vampire, a beautiful dark-haired woman, when I noticed the room had gotten colder, much colder. It was May in San Francisco, yet I could see my breath upon each exhalation. It seemed like it was 20 degrees, but how was that possible? Getting up to check the thermostat and possibly call the landlord, I happened to look up at just the right time. There was a black spot on the ceiling. It couldn't have been more than an inch in diameter, and that first night I decided it was a spot of dirt or mold that I had never seen before. Telling myself I would grab a ladder and clean it in the morning, I clicked on the heat setting on the old thermostat and went back to bed. I forgot about it the next day, working a double at the restaurant and coming home after midnight. When I arrived back and plopped down in bed, that same hole stood out, but this time it seemed bigger, maybe 2 or 3 inches now. Over the next few months, I witnessed as the hole grew slightly larger each day. Sometimes it would grow by an inch or two. Sometimes it would only be a millimeter. But the one constant was that it would grow. It would always grow. How could I be sure, you might be thinking? Well, the third evening it came into view, I finally grabbed a ladder and measured it for myself. I was careful not to touch it, the temperature getting so much colder as I approached that I figured my hand might freeze completely upon coming in contact, or something worse. I can't say why I never told anyone about it, or why I didn't run like hell. Maybe I just didn't want some group of scientists claiming it for themselves, you know? At that point in my life, I didn't have much to show for myself, and this was the one thing that felt like it was mine. Maybe this would be one of the greatest discoveries of all time, and I wanted to be the first one to find out what was inside. Last night, I finally got my wish. The room seemed colder than normal, confirmed upon checking the thermostat and finding it was well below zero. I watched as the hole flexed and bent, and something began to pull its way out of the darkness. First, there was a small shape about the size of a finger. Then, something like a hand emerged, dripping a steady plop of what looked like blood down from the ceiling and onto the icy wooden floor. I held my breath and watched as a dark figure stained and covered with blood pulled its way out of the hole and fell down onto the floor in front of my bed. Maybe I imagined the bright red blood steaming up from its shape and becoming a thin mist, but the thing did seem to be almost burning as it lay there on the thick blue rug at the center of my room. A few minutes went by, and time seemed to help the creature calm its breathing back down to a slower rate. A stronger wave of horror fell over me then, as I watched the thing slowly raise its level and stand, seeming to examine the bedroom around it as it walked awkwardly from corner to corner. I was trying to decide if I should run like hell or try to speak with it, when it seemed to notice me for the first time. Hello? I said nervously. Blood dripped off the creature and onto the floor as it finally took a step towards my bed.
Help me,
the figure whispered, a weakness and fear even greater than my own emanating from its lips.
Help me, Mark,
it continued. How do you know my name? It almost seemed to grow tired then, and I watched in a mix of horror and confusion as it walked slowly into my bathroom. There was a click as the shower door closed, and then the soft squeaking of the steel shower handle, followed by a steady downfall of water. My legs dangled off the bed as I thought about a whole slew of options, from calling the police, to calling NASA, to just running like hell. But I didn't, choosing instead to stay and wait. Until 15 minutes later, the handle squeaked off, and the door opened slowly.
Close,
the thing said weakly.